Hello, I'm David Chase. I'm the conductor of the La Jolla Symphony Chorus, and I'm here with Rick Burkhart, who is the composer of our latest project. We have a very interesting project that we've asked Rick to be a part of, a very large part of. It's being called a non-choral event. It's being called an installation for chorus and instruments in the Natural History Museum at Balboa Park, which is an interesting space. And it is entitled Haydn in Plain Sight. But I'll ask Rick now to give us a little more description of the music that he's written for us.
Well, I'm fascinated to find that you call this a non-choral event, because nearly all of the music is choral music. There's also a string quartet, there are 3 brass instruments and a flute and some percussion, and all of them are distributed among the 12 balconies in the atrium of the Natural History Museum in Balboa Park. So an audience member will be cajoled into wandering into the museum, which I figure we'll talk about in a minute, and then the audience member will be corralled with other audience members into a small tour group, which will be given a tour guide. The tour guide is a member of the chorus, and the tour guide will then sing a text as tour guide while showing the audience all of the exhibits in this particular event. The event lasts about 30 minutes. There's music and singing and playing of instruments throughout, and the tour guides are instructing the audience as to how to see and listen and think about and imagine what all of these sounds mean. Now, most of the sounds are derived in one way or another from episodes in the life or music of Franz Joseph Haydn, which was your recommendation that we would somehow build into this piece a connection to Haydn's last oratorio, which is a 2-hour-long piece called The Seasons, which indeed talks about the seasons of the year and the men and women who love them. And yeah, so we have condensed this. We have at moments kind of exploded it. We have distorted it, but a lot of it we've actually left fairly intact. So there's at least 10 minutes within this 30-minute stretch of some solid Haydn tonal, you know, 1700s changing to 1800s music. Yeah, exactly.
In fact, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the experience might be for a person who really doesn't know Haydn, doesn't know those references, comes in with us, and we'll invite them into the space inside the museum, and they start to experience these tour guides you're talking about. What's the piece going to feel like to them?
Well, this, of course, is an experiment, and so we can only conjecture as to what the results will be and what people will be experiencing. What I imagine is what I would like to have had my own experience be before I knew anything about Haydn or his music. So entering a space where a lot of Haydn-like sounds are kind of occurring in an ambient, or I might even say kind of a jungle environment, like a rainforest made up of Haydn music, and then being told by a tour guide, who incidentally is being mischievous. I mean, these tour guides are not faculty members. They do not treat this in an academic way. They tell you a little bit about the story of Haydn's life, which I did read a couple books about in order to write the piece, and he had a pretty fascinating life. And they tell you stories about some of the people he met, some of his lucky breaks in life. Haydn is one of the few composers in history who actually had some of those. And then they talk about the difference between Haydn as a young boy who grew up extremely poor, and the difference between Haydn as a respected and, in fact, revered composer at the end of his life, when most of his friends were monarchs and dukes and kings, and he would go on hunting trips with the royalty of all Europe. And yeah, this is not a usual experience for a composer. In fact, nothing like that has ever happened to me.
I'm surprised.
Yes. I mean,
Why am I surprised?
I still have 30 years to
You can
achieve that pinnacle. And so I think all of this is interesting and kind of funny, you know, odd, and it is, historically speaking, anomalous. Then in addition to that, you have moments where the tour guides relinquish control, essentially, and the music takes over, and it's coming at you from all the different balconies and from the ground and up there and down. And it does kind of congeal into Haydn, and it sort of dissolves out of Haydn. It shows that Haydn himself had a great sense of humor, which is one of the things that he's remembered for. Even when he was writing about sad things, there are these odd little jokes in his music, and
I think you found them all.
no, there are more. There are more.
Well, we hope everybody will join us in the park for Haydn in Plain Sight, written by Rick Burkhardt and brought to you by the La Jolla Symphony Chorus and members of the La Jolla Symphony Orchestra.